Om Napyayantu Mamangani Vakranah Chakshushrotram Atho Balamindriyani Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastva Nirakaranam Nestu Tadatmani Nirateyo Upanishadsu Dharmaste Mai Santu Te Mai Santu Om Shanti 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 Om Kene Shitam Patati Preshitam Mana Kena Pranav Prathamav Praiti Yuktaha Kene Shitam Vacham Imam Vadanti Chakshukshrotam Ka Udevo Yunakti Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Mano Yadvacho Havacham So Pranasya Prana Chakshuras Chakshurati Muchyadhiraha Pretyasma Lokad Amrita Bhavanti Natatra Chakshur Gacchati Navagacchati No Mano Navidmo Navijanimo Yathai Tadanushashyat Anyadeva Tadvidita Datho Vidita Dadhi Iti Shushruma Purve Shamyenas Tadvya Chachakshire Yadvachana Bhyuditam Yena Bhag Abhyudyate Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate Yat Manasana Manuti Yena Hormano Matam Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate Yat Chakshushana Pashyati Yena Chakshumshi Pashyati Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate Yat Shrotrena Nashrunoti Yena Shrotramidam Shrutam Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate Yat Pranena Na Praniti Yena Pranav Praniyate Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Yadidam Upasate. I think we read only first chapter, yes? We stopped here. So to just overview very quickly what it was about the faculties of consciousness and what are they. So there is the surface of them. The faculties of consciousness are turned without. They're looking to the world, our sight, our hearing, our mind, our speech. Every faculty is turned outside and cannot find Brahman there. Cannot express Brahman outside by the means they have. What they are now, they cannot do it because they are the outcomes of the action of Brahman and not the superior, so to say, consciousness which can perceive Brahman. They are the result of Brahman's action in the world. So since they are turned outside and looking at the surface of phenomena, they cannot discover Brahman. They can worship him as an idol, as a religion, as dogma, as a concept, but they cannot really know him. The mind which interfered, or those faculties of which mind is one of them, are projecting the image of Brahman and worship the image of Brahman, so to say, and not knowing Brahman. That's quite clear. It's phenomenological in a way. They are the separation from the real consciousness towards the surface phenomena. And in the narrowed down surface phenomena, the spirit cannot be totally perceived, only partially, in terms of concept, image, dogma. So they make a projection, these faculties, and they worship this. That's why the Rishi says, it is not which people worship here. It is something else, which cannot be expressed by the word, but by which the word is expressing. It cannot be perceived by the mind, but by which the mind is thinking. It cannot be seen by the eye, but by which the sight is seen. But it cannot be expressed by the hearing, because it is that by which the hearing is hearing. And cannot be expressed even by the breath, because it is that by which the breath is moved forward. So it is that by which the breath is enduring in this manifestation. So that was the first chapter. We are moving into the second one. Yadi manyase suvedeti dabhramevapi nunam tvam vitha brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya devesho athanu vimansyameva te manyaviditam. If thou thinkest that thou knowest it well, if you think that you know it well, little indeed dost thou know the form of the Brahman. Little indeed you knew the form of the Brahman. So when somebody thinks that he knows well, he discovered a little drop of the form of the spirit. So he discovered something. It's not that he didn't discover anything, but that what he discovered is something of the form, of the formation which is on the surface, and it is a very small part of it. That of it which is thou, and that of which is in the gods, this thou hast to think out. I think it's known. That of you which is in, that of it which is you, and that of it which is in the gods, you should be studied here. It is for you to study, for you to discover. Manye viditam, I consider that to be discovered, discoverable, possible to see. Now here there is an interesting new concept for us, that of it which is in you or you and in the gods. What is this you and gods suddenly? Something unusual. Without Sri Aurobindo, of course, we would not know what it means, because nobody truly coherently can express or explain what it is. Sri Aurobindo says there are two major entities, and that is self and the Lord. There are two major foundations, the self and the Lord. The self is Atman. Everything which belongs to Atman has a self. There is nothing in this world which does not have a self. Everything is manifested by the self and is the self itself in some form of manifestation. Self as the as individual unique manifestation of the being. So everything, every single entity is the self to itself and the self to others. Yeah? Even if you take our body, we will see there are many cells in this body which are kind of built up around the self, bigger self. So around the physical cells, there are many other cells built. There are different organs, there are different faculties, there are different even cells of the body. Each cell is unique and individualistic in a way, but it is in connection to other cells that it creates the bigger self. So these, even cells, even the elements of the self, are the self-created elements. Everything is here the self. Everything which has the form, a manifestation, everything which is the object of sense is the self. So whatever form you see outside is the self, in a way. It has a solid being. This is the self. This chair is the self. This form of earth, this universe, every single entity is basically the manifestation of the self, the being. Everything has beingness in it. It exists. It is. And there is something else to it, and that is the gods, the faculties of consciousness, which belong to the Lord, to the formation of consciousness. So the Lord is the formation of consciousness, with the faculties perceiving these objects of sense. So the Lord is the sense, and the self is the object of sense. Yeah? The consciousness and the being. So what of it, of this Brahman, of this spirit, is you as the self, and what of it is in the gods, in the faculties of consciousness? That has to be discovered. And this is a profound question, not easy to even postulate. So what is of the spirit being, and what is consciousness? What is being, what is consciousness? Can we discover that? That difference between being and consciousness in the spirit, in the Brahman. Sri Aurobindo has the whole article which is called The Self and the Lord. And that is very profound, when he explains their relations. And that is the difference between Atman and Purusha. Atman is the self and Purusha is the Lord. It is a very subtle difference, a very difficult, many students of philosophy do not really understand the difference between the Lord and the self, between consciousness and being. And that is fundamental for Indian philosophy. I think also for phenomenology, it's fundamental.
Where we can find this essay on Heraclitus, this collection of essay around this article of Sri Aurobindo you were mentioning. Do you remember where it's?
Right. I will have to find it. Yes, it's somewhere, yeah, published on his essays, something. You didn't find it yet, no? On Heraclitus? No? You found the on Heraclitus?
Yeah, yes, but I was wondering where this essay we're talking about now was.
This is from Kenna. I will send you this. That is no problem. It is from here, from this very, yeah. It will follow it, yeah. It's the basic part of this Kenna Upanishad, the difference between the self and the Lord. These are profound quotations there behind. I will have to, maybe I will look into them immediately, that you will. Here it is. I made a special article separately from it. Sri Aurobindo writes in his essays on the Kenna Upanishad, and when we have go on thus eliminating and thus analyzing all forms into the fundamental entities of the cosmos, we shall find that these fundamental entities are really only two, ourselves and the gods. This is from Kena Upanishad. Well, but what then of the Brahman is myself, and what of the Brahman is in the gods? The answer is evident to Sri Aurobindo, of course, not to me. I am a representation in the cosmos, but for all purposes of the cosmos, a real representation of the self, Atman. And the gods are representation in the cosmos, a real representation, since without them the cosmos could not continue, of the Lord. The one supreme self is the essentiality of all these individual existences. The one supreme Lord is the Godhead in the gods. So we have Purusha, with who is represented in the faculties of consciousness in every one of them, and we have the Lord, the Self, who is represented in all the beingness of all the beings. We have one existence in all existences and one consciousness in all forms of consciousness. So the gods of the Upanishads have been supposed to be a figure for the senses. The gods of the Upanishads have been supposed to be a figure for the senses. This is something we don't expect to think of, that the gods are the senses, of the figures. But although they act in the senses, they are yet much more than that. They represent the divine power in its great and fundamental cosmic functionings, whether in man or in mind and life and matter in general. They are not the functionings themselves, but something of the divine, which is essential to their operation and its immediate possessor and cause. So the Purusha behind them. There will be more very beautiful quotations, and I will send you this article. It may be very useful for you to see how faculties are viewed as a Purusha's faculties. Yeah, we will come back in a minute to all this again. So here is this postulate, this question of what is or of it is you and what is in the gods. And we continue. That's what Rishi wants to explore. Naham manye suvedeti, nona vedeti vedacha, yonas tad veda, nona vedeti vedacha. I think not that I know it well. And yet I know that it is not unknown to me. He of us who knows it knows that. He knows that it is not unknown to him. I will go word by word, it will help. Na aham manye suveda iti. I do not think, na aham manye suveda iti, that I know it well, that I am perfectly knowing it. I don't think I know it perfectly well. Nona vedeti vedacha, but I don't know that I don't know. And this is something interesting. It is much more complex than Socrates' I know that I don't know. Here it is, I don't know that I don't know. So I can't say that I know it well. I don't think I know it well, but I can't say also that I don't know it at all. And this is a very, very subtle proposition. Yeah? So I'm not claiming to know it totally, perfectly, and finally, but I cannot say that I have no idea what it is. Because I am that. It can't be true that I don't know it at all. I have some idea. I have something is present of it in me. My faculties are already here questioning it. So how can I say that I don't know it? I cannot say that I don't, that I do not know it. But I can't say that I know it well. So of us both who knows it in this way, knows that, and he doesn't know what he doesn't know. He doesn't know that he doesn't know. So this is a very subtle spiritual position. I think this is the perfect example of how we have to position ourselves towards this knowledge. This is a spiritual position. One should never claim that one knows it totally, perfectly, because it's just wrong movement. It will lead you away from knowledge. But one cannot also say that one is unaware totally of it or knows it not, because we do not know that we do not know. In that previous chapter, it was said we do not know how to teach it because it is different from the known and it is different from the unknown. So if I say that I do not know it, then I know what is not knowing, which is not true anyway, because it is far beyond that, far beyond my not knowing, because my not knowing presupposes that I know how it is to know. I do not know that thing. I cannot have access to it. So even my unknown thing is not really that. That what I don't know is really not that. I don't know something I can know. So you see, there are two positions, very beautiful. And our mind is completely bewildered because our mind is black and white, yes and no. And somehow the best what it can do is dialectical, synthesis of thesis and antithesis. But if you go beyond that, it just stops working. It is just becoming, oops, wait a minute, what has happened just now? It goes beyond, it doesn't work. It stops working.
Vladimir, can this be also interpreted as there is something in us that knows it and something in us that doesn't know it, which would somehow reproduce also inside of the being we are, of the self we are, this double aspect, this double nature. There is something in us which is connected with this knowledge, and there is something in us which is not.
Very interesting proposition. So you look at this statement as something in me does not know it, and something in me cannot say that it doesn't know it, and that is the position. Very nice. And these two creations, first is that we came to save, to bring back to its self-awareness. That is our body, our, so to say, unconscious part of our nature. And there is some conscious part in it.
Precisely, because I thought that probably this is an age where this idea of our consciousness as multi-layered maybe was not there. This idea of conscious, unconscious, subconscious is something which is be developed quite late. I don't know.
Oh, it is there, but here is a postulate is like this, yeah, of how to say it is language in a way. It's a formulation in language which is pointing out to the real thing, nothing else. It is not.
Yeah,
Mm,
in a different way, it seems,
mm,
about this, for instance, articulation in between knowing and not knowing.
right, right. But here, if you analyze also the words manye is from root man, to think, to consider, and veda, vid, from to discover, so to say, to know it as a discovery of the being. So I do not think that I discovered it well. I literally will translate, it would be a bit different, which will give us more scope for thinking. And I did not discover it to be that not discoverable. And this is very interesting. Another kind of dimension to it. Sri Aurobindo will be speaking about this, that the unknown is not the unknowable to us. The unknown is not the unknowable. It may be knowable if we want to. It is now unknown, but it can be discovered, it can be known. So this is another dimension to the saying which you spoke. A very nice idea of two, and I think it is true, because it is always implied, these two, of vidya and avidya from Isha Upanishads, and the partial knowledge in time and space, and fundamental knowledge of our unborn self. Yes, there is an element in us which is seeking this discovery, and it cannot say that it does not discover it as undiscoverable. And manye is rutman, I do not consider. Yeah? It's not I don't discover it as well discovered. Rishi is very clever. He will not use that root. Yeah? He will put another word into it to make it clear. Of course, when we translate, we don't really pay attention to these roots. We're kind of trying to figure out the meaning. But if we pay attention to his language, it would be also very valuable interpretation. And then next, which is also very interesting. Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya navedasah avijñatam vijanatam vijñatam avijanatam. He by whom it is not thought out has the thought of it. He by whom it is thought out knows it not. It is unknown to the discernment of those who discern of it. By those who seek not to discern of it, it is discerned. Nice, huh? It's like koan somehow. So yasya, of whom amatam, it is not considered or not thought out, tasya matam, that is thought out. Of him it is thought out. The one who is not thinking it out is actually thinking it out. Yes, matam yasya, and by whom it is thought out, or better to say, of the one who is, of the one it is thought out, who thinks of it as not possible to think out. The one who knows it, who considers it as the thing which cannot be thought out, it is thought out. So we can think of it as unthinkable. Thinking of it as unthinkable is correct. But who thinks that it is thought out, that it is thinkable, he does not discover it. Navedasaha. And again, Rishi changes the route. Yeah? The one who finds it thought out does not discover it. He is stuck to his concept, to his image, to his projection in the mind. He deals with the conceptual thinking. He cannot discover it. Between him and that thing, there is a concept immediately which is thought out. But the one who thinks that that cannot be thought out, he's really thinking it out, because he is keeping the doors open, so to say, psychologically. He's not closing the door on concept. Concept is closing the door, so to say. You have something solid in the hand, and from that time on, you don't have access to the reality. You're just shutting the door. Something like that. And then the second line, avijñātam vijñānatam. It is not discerned by those who discern it. Those who discern it, they discern it as undiscerned. And those who don't discern it, think of it or discern it as discerned, that it is clear to them. Once it is clear to you what it is, totally discerned, then you should know that it is actually not that. Immediately not that. So one can discern it, one can approach it as undiscernible. One can even discern it as undiscernible. Something beyond the possibility to be discerned. And that is real discernment. If we discern it as undiscernible, we discern it really. And this is the way how we can do. We can really discern the spirit as undiscernible. It should not be, how to say, captured by the mind. It cannot be captured by the mind as it's captive, as a prisoner. The spirit is the prisoner of the mind. It will not happen. Whatever mind will do, however hard it will try to captivate the spirit, it will not happen. So, but the mind can take a right position towards it as undiscerned, something beyond its possibility to capture it. So, and in that state, mind becomes open towards the spirit and if it holds its openness towards it in this way, it can be influenced by the spirit and change its knowledge and perception and capacity and widen the scope by the light of the spirit. But the mind wants to capture and to put label on it, and wants to make it food for itself, as Sri Aurobindo describes so beautifully in the Self of Mind, in the chapter on in Savitri, where the mind tries to capture the spirit. And what it does of it, like an insect, it captures one thought and makes a food for itself. It eats it. It's just, or puts it into some kind of bureau. These shelves which you open, small shelves, and dissect and puts in every corner in that shelf. Oh, here it is this, here it is this, here it is this. That's what mind does. And it thinks, oh, I have it. This is here in this section. I have this truth. In this section, I have this truth. That's what how mind approaches the spiritual being. And it is not possible to capture the spiritual being by that. It will be only a projection of the mind, nothing else. Mm. And then there is the third one. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mrita. When it is known by perception that reflects it, when it is known, that Brahman is known by perception that reflects it, the perception that reflects it, just think for a second. So when the mind opens up to it and does not hold this attitude to captivate the spirit, but keeps open, says that I do not know it well, but I don't know that I don't know. I am keeping open to it and see what happens, how the spirit influences me, enters me. Then there is a perception in the mind which reflects it. Yeah? There will be a light entering and reflecting in the mind from the Brahman with the mind which holds open doors towards the spirit. Then one has the thought of it. Then there can be a thought in the mind of the spirit. So it has to be based on the experience, not on the mental manipulation and logic and procedures. So for one finds immortality. Yes?
What is the word that is translated with perception? And
Perception.
if you can. Mm-hmm.
Here, known by perception, pratibodha, viditam, matam, amritatvam. Look, there are vindate. There are three roots of knowledge used. Pratibodha. Pratibodha is the, so to say, reflection or perception which reflects. Yeah, it is. You want to know what perception is? How I Sri Aurobindo uses perception. It's actually a reflection. Perception that reflects it is what he calls that pratibodha. Pratibodha literally awakening against it, so to say. It is awakening towards it, so to say, facing it. Reflection, awakening, facing it. So viditam, so it is known, viditam, by the perception that reflects it, pratibodha. If Sri Aurobindo would not write the notes towards this verse, we would not really know what it means. But he has the whole article on this particular verse explaining what is happening. He says very interesting thing, that the spirit, though it is unknown to us, it cannot be known by our faculties, does not want to be unknown to us. And this is something unexpected. This Sri Aurobindo brings this kind of dimension. The spirit doesn't want to stay unknown. It wants us to know it. It wants to create within us the tools or the instruments of knowledge which could know him and how to do it. And this is the way how to do it. The whole thing is described. You have to keep open doors and not to claim any of your, so to say, activities of the mind or the sight, or all the faculties. The faculties are selfish. They are exercising their rights to know. But in this case, they have to open up and hold, as Sri Aurobindo says, become consciously passive towards the spirit, consciously passive, not active. They should stop acting on their own faculties and hold attentive towards its coming, towards its arrival. And then, he says, it will come. There will be flashes of light. They will not come immediately. They will come in time, one flash and then another flash. And over a period of time, there will be nothing, but they have to hold still consciously passive, perceiving, trying to perceive, reflect the light of the spirit. And he says this is their major function of the faculties. They just forgot about that. They run to satisfy their own senses. Our sight, hearing, word, mind want to satisfy their own activities. They're selfish. We want to see beautiful things. We want to hear beautiful music and harmonies. We want to hear only beautiful words, speak sweet, think deep thoughts. We want to have good touch, good smell, good taste. We want only good things. Why? Because the senses want it, not we, actually. We don't want it. It is the senses which make us want it. The senses are running for their own self-satisfaction. And Sri Aurobindo says the Vedantic yoga of this yoga of Vedantic Rishi was that these senses had to renounce their own self-satisfaction and turn towards the spirit and await his coming or his action. And this is very difficult because the senses which are not satisfied and are used to satisfied, to satisfaction, very difficult to hold long time, kind of fixed on the spirit, waiting for him to flash and to come. It's good when he comes immediately, then we feel fulfilled. But there are periods when he is not kind of reconnecting with us. And then there is a stagnation period where the senses do not know what to do. They lose their sense of being, because sense of being is to be satisfied, to get ananda. Where is my ananda? Says every sense. I want to see beautiful. I don't want to see nothing. I want to hear beautiful things. I want to eat, to everything has to be beautiful and satisfactory for me. And so they renounce their major task, major purpose of life, that they had to be intermediaries who will bring the spirit to the surface. They forget about it. And we become selfish. And that is basically ahankara. Ahankara, or our ego sense, is within the senses wanting to self-satisfaction. It's so simple. Simply you cannot explain even our ego sense. There is nothing else actually which is holding us back. Only these things. If we would be capable really to turn these mighty senses towards the spirit, we would be completely different beings. Does it make sense, or it's far-fetched? So here we have this, what Sri Aurobindo explains, that the Brahman wants to be known through our senses, which took this position, and I wait for his coming and for his flashing. And that reflection, then one has the thought of it, because it comes not from the mind which is thinking it, but through the open door of the mind, to which the light comes. And that thought in the mind is very different thought than mind makes by itself. For one finds immortality. By the self one finds the force to attain. So by ourselves we exercise the force to attain, and by the knowledge we find immortality. And here again, the force and knowledge, power and knowledge. Power belongs to the self, knowledge belongs to consciousness. And by these two, we realize ourselves here. It's kind of profound. Yeah? Again, these two, the self and the Lord. Atmana vindate viryam. By the self, by the power of the self, one realizes the power to manifest the spirit. Vidyaya vindate amritam. And by the knowledge, one attains or realizes immortality, discovers immortality. And these are the two elements of the spirit, the power and the knowledge. The sense as the knowledge and the object of sense as the power. The form and the name, the apprehensive and comprehensive cognition. Very interesting, anyway. And then one more shloka, and that would be it of this chapter. It's a very short chapter, only 5 shlokas, but somehow very interesting, from very close to our thinking, kind of nearly modern language in a way. Iha cheda vedi datha satyamasti, nached iha vedi mahati vinashtehi, bhuteshu bhuteshu vichityan hiraha pretyasma lokadamrita bhavanti. If here one comes to that knowledge, then one truly is. If one realizes this knowledge of this chapter, one truly is. If here one comes not to the knowledge, then great is the perdition. The destruction is great. The wise distinguish that in all kinds of becomings, and they pass forward from this world and become immortal. The wise distinguish that, the spirit, in all kinds of becomings. They see in all kinds of becomings the presence of the spirit, and they pass forward from this world and become immortal. Sri Aurobindo is interested how he translates pass forward from this world. Dhiraha pretya. Pretya is translated going forward, literally leaving the body, so to say, dying. Later it is interpreted only by leaving the body. But Sri Aurobindo doesn't go into that extent yet. He gives another dimension. They pass forward from this world. To pass forward from this world. He leaves this word forward, not pass from this world, as it will be translated later by everybody else, but pass forward from this world. And this forward changes everything, because literally it is pra-etya. Pra-etya means moving forward. It's not dying. Yeah? It's just going ahead. Going ahead and growing in the spirit. Doesn't matter whether you are leaving the body and coming back and leaving and coming back, but you are moving forward. Literally, you are moving towards the east, towards the rising of the sun, towards the rising of all the nakshatras, where you will meet them, new possibilities, new times, new combinations, new challenges. So moving ahead there, the wise become immortal. There is still path to be trodden. There is the path to be walked. It is not yet finished. So in that sense, it's not just leaving the body and becoming immortal somewhere in the heaven and sitting there forever. So this is the chapter. Beautiful, no? There are such beautiful, simple, and deep ideas, and not much words around, very few words. The notes of Sri Aurobindo on Kena are profound. For those who are interested in philosophy, it is very interesting to read. You should read them. You will find all these explanations here on samjnana, jnana, vijnana, prajnana, on especially the chapter on the divine word. I would recommend you to look into, and just on this one at least, how he is the word of our word. There are 2 chapters on the word. It's something very powerful. All right. Would you like to share some thoughts? It's phenomenology pure, with this flavor of spirituality and experience.
Just maybe if you can recall these different words, different roots that are used to mention knowledge and.
Right. So there are 4 roots used in this small chapter. There is root man, to think, to consider. Anahamanye, I don't think that I know it well, that I discovered it well. Root vid, to discover, to find out, to come to know, to come somewhere and see everything, so to say. Most probably vid, also to see, comes from here, I think. It's that etymology. There is another root, jna, vijnanam. Root jna has different connotation. It is the root which is more as a self-realization, so to say. If vid is to discover, to come to know, to come somewhere and see something, yes, that's kind of expand and come to the state of seeing, then vijnana jna is to have an experience of oneself. Self-realization, that's what Sribandi says. Jnana is self-realization. It is not an objective discovery. So, and he translates his vijnatam, vijanatam, discern. Yeah, that is not discerned by those who discern. So discernment can apply 2 things, that you discern it objectively, or you discern yourself as such in that state of consciousness. Yes? So to say, it's rather that part, that you discern yourself as, you discern within yourself in such a state which shows you that the spirit cannot be discerned, cannot be distinguished. Spirit is beyond the capacity to distinguish. And the pratibodha is to awaken against, or right. So these are the 4 roots. So we have man, we have vid, we have jna with prefix v, and buddh, to awaken. From here, buddhi is awakening, and Buddha is awakened, as you know. Buddha is literally awakened being, aware, who has awareness. So pratibodha is awareness towards it, so perception. So knowledge by perception. Perception by awakening. How Sri Aurobindo says it. Perception that reflects it, because prati means prati, against, facing it, to say, against it, reflection, awakening in relation to it. And there are many more roots. There is chit root.
Mirroring, sort of.
Mirroring, very good, mirroring, yes. Reflecting, mirroring. Mirroring is even better because you see in the mirror the image. And once your mirror is very clean and static, then it is without movement. Yeah, it can reflect the spirit, correct? And these will be the thoughts of it, and not the thoughts which mind produces. Right. Okay. Very nice. Okay, so we will stop here for today, and we'll continue next time. Next time we will meet. I will be traveling from tomorrow onwards for 4 days, so we will not be able to meet, unfortunately, for our Greek. I wrote many this. I will send you my photos. I wrote, so I can write now and read all this.
Nice, I'll do the same.
All right, lovely.
Still, there's something that do not correspond when I see the shlokas, but I think this is the next step when you're writing letters together. And
yes, together they look different. They are not letters. These are syllables, and that's why.
yeah. So anyway, the characters when you combine looks different.
Right. Okay, I will close.